In the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan game, 7th Stand User, you get thrust into the story of Stardust Crusaders to journey to Egypt and put a stop to Dio's evil. You take a personality quiz at the beginning of the game to determine the stand you'll receive, with 18 different possible results with their own unique ability. Your results don't just determine your powers though. Your character's demeanor and reactions align with the type combination from the Enneagram of Personality. My mission is to explore each stand and fully understand their powers, the user's personality, and what influences were involved in making it. Welcome to the 7th Stand Analysis. Alright, and in this episode we'll be covering... Mom, can we get... We have... At home. So, stands in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure have come a long way from when they were first introduced in this series. Araki has always liked writing fights that are more like puzzles to solve than straight fights, but the pieces to these puzzles have kind of evolved over time. I mean, stands in Part 3 had abilities such as using fire, using ice, using sand, being a knight, being a fish, being a boat, being a gun. I don't think these stands are bad, of course, some of them were my favorites. It's just more interesting to compare and contrast them with the much more abstract and esoteric abilities we see from JoJo today. Nowadays, it's rare to see a stand engage in direct head-to-head physical combat with the enemy. In the face of all this, Red Garland embodies the archetypal stand, a big, strong bodyguard that beats people up for you. Today, I'm here to analyze Red Garland and see if there's more to it and its user than just having a tough exterior, though. Without further ado, let's see what it's capable of. Clothed in red armor, this warrior stand uses his fists as a weapon. Its punches can knock people silly, incapacitating them temporarily. Its incredible offensive power is offset by disappointingly low accuracy. However, in terms of sheer strength, few stands can match it. Red Garland is a close-range power-type stand that has strength rivaling or perhaps even exceeding Star Platinum's. However, it has average speed and low precision, which makes it literally hit or miss in fights. When it does hit though, it hits like a truck. It's also a matter of reaching the enemy because most of its attacks are short-range and single target. It does unlock some options, but you have to do it through effort, usually through events like defeating Yellow Temperance with Jotaro in a straight-on fight rather than running away. One of the moves it can unlock is from staying in the hotel with Abdul called Red Gale, where you learn to make a whirlwind with your sheer strength. You spend most of the game powering through challenges with brute force, making certain encounters a breeze, while others are practically impossible without support from an ally. Red Garland's strength is also shown off in events like the truck in Calcutta, where you actually need Jotaro to trigger most of the time. But Red Garland, you can stop the runaway driver by yourself. While its might rivals Star Platinum, Red Garland doesn't seem to have a unique ability. The other player stands can do things like manipulate the subconscious, control sound, make things rot. All you really get with Red Garland is punching hard and maybe throwing some rocks. That is, until you begin to level up and notice something as you unlock more of your skills. You gradually get a set of skills simply named Red Garland, from the first, to the second, to the third. These skills differ from your regular punching attacks like Mach or Berserk Rush because rather than send the enemy flying back, they inflict different status effects. You progressively go from inflicting fear and Berserk to confusing the enemy or putting them to sleep. That's kinda strange though. It's one thing for your punches to make the enemy scared or to leave them confused from a concussion maybe, but putting them to sleep without knocking them out? Causing them to completely lose control of themselves? That's not normal. It all makes sense though at level 50 when all the effects culminate in Red Garland's ultimate skill, Red Garland Requiem? As it turns out, Red Garland doesn't just punch you really hard. When Abdul said its punches can knock people silly, he wasn't using a figure of speech. Red Garland's actual ability is to directly impact your soul, which quite literally breaks your spirit, and as a result weakens your psyche. And I know, Requiem? That's weird, isn't it? Without an arrow, it sounds far-fetched. Kinda thought that myself, but according to Clayman, how it works is similar to the principle of Star Platinum unlocking Time Stop. Requiem is defined as the power to control living souls. By pushing Red Garland's ability to its limit, you get a glimpse of Requiem. You can use the power to ruin your enemy's soul. Red Garland Requiem can inflict any status effect in the entire game when it hits the enemy, making it one of the most powerful skills in the entire game. This might be a good time to bring up Red Garland's musical reference, the famous jazz pianist William McKinley Garland Jr., also known as Red Garland. I think the stand is mostly a reference to Red Garland's album Soul Burnin', which is a pretty accurate description of its ability. What's notable about this album is that its first track is a rendition of On Green Dolphin Street, which, for you JoJo fans, must sound familiar. A song popularized among jazz artists by a musician named Ahmad Jamal, which was someone Red Garland heavily drew inspiration from. While I didn't find much by looking over what biographies I could find, Red Garland had a brief stint as a boxer that might have influenced the stand being the obligatory close-range power-type punch ghost kind of stand. But what kind of person would wield a stand this powerful? So strong you could unlock Requiem through sheer force of will. Well, Abdul describes the user as taciturn, intimidating, and unshakable. You take a methodical approach to problems, never rush things, and seldom show cracks in your calm veneer. You appreciate the simple things in life and have a lot of self-control, but you're a loner by nature, and you feel most at peace when on your own. Red Garland's or powerhouse is not just body, but in mind as well. In terms of the Enneagram typology, Red Garland's user is a Type 8, often referred to as the Challenger, with a subtype of 9, the Peacemaker, which I elaborated on in my Adam Ant video. The defining trait of Type 8 is assertiveness, stemming from a desire of control and security. Because of this, they question authority and don't like being told what to do without good reason. But the Type 9's peaceful nature gives them a cool and calm approach rather than an aggressive one like a pure 8 or an 8-winged 7 would have. It's interesting to note that the stand that represents that personality is the inverse of Red Garland, Carpenters, who claim in parallels to Dio, while Red Garland is parallel to Jotaro, so that'll be interesting when I get around to covering that stand. Anyway, Red Garlands are more quiet and draw attention with the weight of their words, not the volume. This doesn't make the content of their message gentle though. They're still blunt and uncompromising.
I don't have some way to put it. That's the way it is.
But they're honest, and if they didn't feel like it was something worth saying, they wouldn't have bothered to say it at all. Because they both seek peace, but aren't afraid to fight for it, they lack the traditional weaknesses of both the Type 9, who try to avoid conflict, and the Type 8, who might go out of the way to cause conflict. They fight when they need to, and they fight hard, but they know when to pick their battles. Red Garland's confidence and sense of judgment come from within. They know their capabilities, they know their limits, and they won't let anyone else decide what they are for them. This makes them resist social pressure, whether it comes from criticism or from praise, because what value is there in the words of people who don't truly get you? But Red Garland's first thought isn't about how that person feels about you, it's, what the hell do they know about me? The exception might be the people who Red Garland truly trusts and allows to be close to them. When it comes to them, they're willing to go to great lengths without expecting to receive anything in return. They do it because they earnestly feel like something that should be done, not just because they want to get something out of whoever they helped.
Oblige you about all I'm going to, sister. Now I'll say goodbye. You stay on that sun now, you hear? You're gonna really be in trouble.
It makes their intentions pure a lot of the time, but it can also strain their relationships with the people around them, because sometimes not wanting anything from anyone makes them feel rejected.
So you're not married?
Nope.
Ever been?
Nope.
Want to be?
Nope.
Don't you want a woman of your own?
What for?
The type combo of 8 Wing 9 is probably the most emotionally stable out of all of them, which is what gives Red Garland an amazing amount of self-control. Red Garland's user doesn't even get the option to pick up the squeamish trait in game, which makes you freak out when things get gory. And during the intro, they remain unflappable when they think there's an intruder in their house. Even strength can be a weakness though. If you aren't careful, the ability to regulate your emotions may become a compulsion too. And in that case, stability gives way to rigidity. Users of Red Garland may have a hard time recognizing that those around them don't carry the same emotional resilience as them, and unintentionally cause people pain with their distant nature. Some can even look down on people who have higher emotional needs than themselves and see them as weak or needy. When lonely people get desperate enough, they might trade their dignity for any connection they can get their hands on. I can relate to simply squaring off with human connections to avoid the drama completely. So, Red Garlands are natural loners, but what a lot of people don't understand is that there's a huge difference between being alone and being lonely.
Don't you want a woman of your own?
What for?
Share your name, bear your children, be a companion.
To ask me to quit drinking, quit gambling, save my money, and to bitch about her aches and pains all day? No, thanks.
Must be a lonely life.
It's a great life. Women when I want them, and none with the name of hoping.
Red Garlands may have a negative experience in the past, so they decided vulnerability was too risky and learned to find peace without the presence of other people. To some people, it's not better to have loved and lost. So they build walls and they shut people out to protect themselves. In this process, they become strong and self-reliant. And if they can't have a certain relationship on their term, they simply won't have it at all.
Why don't you want to talk about it?
Why do you want to talk about it?
Why are you blocking?
I'm not blocking.
Oh, yes, you are.
Donkey, I'm warning you.
Who you trying to keep out? Just tell me that, Shrek. Who?
Everyone, okay?
My first thought when I figured out Red Garland's ability was, what's the point? If you're close enough to break their spirit, you're close enough to break their bones. But I think it hinges on how much the user values their self-sufficiency. The worst you could do to them is violate their autonomy or control them. So from their view, making the enemy lose control is more damaging than any typical aura. Like I said before, Clayman parallels Red Garland's user to Jotaro, which is pretty obvious. Some people see him as a flat character, but I think Jotaro is actually pretty complex, just subtle and subdued compared to more loud and boisterous characters like Polnareff and Joseph. Despite Jotaro's tough guy attitude, his caring is his most defining trait. He called his mom a bitch, yeah, but he was also the first and only one to notice something was off about Holly while she was hiding her sickness. Jotaro was an absent father, yeah, but when faced with the choice of saving the world or saving his daughter, he chose Jolene. Jotaro expresses love through action. It's obvious that Jotaro cares about Jolene and tries to be there when it matters, but if you're only there when it quote-unquote matters, it implies all the times you aren't there don't. When it comes to Jotaro, the biggest influence Araki had in crafting him was mostly in Clint Eastwood, and he's definitely not shy about showing it. But in general, the stock 80s action hero was the biggest source of inspiration for Araki's entire art style of the earlier parts. Between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, back then the manly man's man were all the rage. When you look at a lot of popular action heroes, it's easy to see them as emotionless killing machines, but oftentimes there's enormous depth between the strong, silent type. My favorite 80s action heroes are probably RoboCop and John Rambo. And yeah, that is his actual name. I'm talking about Rambo in the first film because the sequels were nothing but propaganda. In First Blood, Rambo is a tortured Vietnam veteran left homeless and alone after the war. His friends are dead, he doesn't seem to have a family, and he doesn't fit in with regular people anymore. On top of all this, he gets victimized by small-town cops, which triggers his PTSD and makes him freak out. And yet, throughout the film, it's the antagonists who keep escalating the conflict. Rambo tries again and again to de-escalate, practicing enormous self-restraint and not killing anyone, even though they're trying to kill him. They shoot a RPG at him for God's sake. It's not until the end that he completely breaks down and shows just what a broken man he is. Funnily enough, one of the few pieces of media that actually nail Rambo's character is Mortal Kombat of all things.
What possessed the gods to make a man like you?
They didn't make me. Troutman did.
This person must be punished.
As for RoboCop, the first film revolves around RoboCop defeating his programming and reclaiming his agency and fragile sense of humanity, while the second film touches on how little he has left. Due to his circumstances, he obviously can't just go back to his human life and his family. It's clear how much it tears him up inside. And as for the third film, we don't talk about the third RoboCop film in this household. I think an excellent example of this archetype in the anime sphere is Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star. Araki must have thought so too, because just look at him and Jonathan side by side. Anyway, Kenshiro is famous for doing the ah-ta-ta-ta-ta thing and saying "omae wa mou shinderu" and making bad guys blow up. But the thing that drives him is how much he cares. How much he cares for his friends, how much he cares for his family, how much he cares for his lover, and how much he cares for strangers. The most powerful thing Ken did in the first episode wasn't making some dude go "NANI" and exploding him. It was this scene, healing a mute, traumatized girl. At least, that's what it felt like to me. That's Kenshiro's true power, turning a martial art meant to kill people into a tool to help the disenfranchised. And unlike many shonen characters, Kenshiro's greatest power-up doesn't come from getting angry and screaming real loud. It's a quiet power that comes from the deep sorrow he holds from losing so many of the things he held dear. It's the power of emptiness, because anger is not the only acceptable emotion for the stoic badass. Kenshiro showed that crying is just fine. I feel like there's a lot to be said with silence, but it requires a careful ear to catch, which is why characters like Jotaro are so overlooked, at least personality-wise. As for someone who gets caught in the trappings of strength, I think Jiren from Dragon Ball Super is a great example. And I'm talking about the manga here because when people say, oh, Jiren isn't interesting, that's pretty accurate to the anime version. We get no real showing of Jiren even having a personality until he throws a tantrum and tries to kill Goku's friends because he's mauling at the power of friendship. In the manga, we get to see a much more fleshed out Jiren despite him not having that much screen time. For one, we get to see him before the tournament in a situation where he actually acts like a superhero because that's what him and the Pride Troopers literally are. He's not the type to kill someone because he's angry. In fact, this version of Jiren avoids killing at all. This Jiren is one who has dedicated his entire life to the ideal of justice, not just being strong. Jiren didn't even want to be part of the Tournament of Power at first because it meant saving his universe at the cost of others. Not only that, when 17 fakes blowing himself up, Jiren is appalled by what he saw as a waste of life, rather than just callously yapping about how weak Goku and Vegeta were. Seriously, in the anime, half of Jiren's dialogue is just strong good, weak bad, me strong, you weak. Manga Jiren doesn't do anything really villainous, like trying to kill Goku's friend. I'm sorry for stressing this point, but that's just... oh my god. Manga Jiren is just kind of a dick. He disregards his allies when they offer to help him or when they're in need of it themselves, but that's because he places a burden on himself to carry everything, not just because he looks upon the concept of weakness itself with contempt. When Jiren was failed by others, he closed his heart and never allowed himself to rely upon anyone else ever again. Ironically, his goal was to revive someone he looked up to, someone he loved, his master, so that he could get his approval and get confirmation that all the strength he cultivated made him worthy. It's no accident that the most physically powerful stand in the 7th stand user is the one that requires the highest degree of self-control. It's a level of strength that can only be entrusted to those who won't abuse it. It calls to mind a quote from Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime.
And maybe some of you have heard it, but it's a story very dear to me, and it's the truth, and it happened. My brother Larry, a captain in the Marine Corps, had returned from Vietnam. He was a decorated Marine, and so he said, "Peter, where are you going today?" I said, "Well, Larry, what, you need the car?" I said, No, I just want to know where you're going." I said, "I'm going to audition. I'm going to be, I'm auditioning as a truck." He did the same thing. And so I said, "But Larry, he's evidently he's a hero truck. He's a hero." And his face got somber, and he said, "Peter, if you're going to be a hero, be a real hero. Don't be a Hollywood hero type with all the BS and all the yelling and screaming and trying to be tough. Be strong enough to be gentle." "Okay, Larry, yeah."
Out of everything that Red Garland is capable of, even the power to control living souls, it's the stability and capacity for kindness that is their greatest strength. However, it's so subtle that no one else might even notice it, but that's fine with them. The true hero, as Iraqi put it, is an unappreciated one. And that was my analysis of Red Garland. I hope to do more of these in the future. I just want to say thank you guys so much for 500 subscribers. It's crazy how fast I've grew, and of course it mostly came from doing videos about the Roblox games, but I still want to stick to my roots in 7 standards or so. I'll definitely be making a mix of both types of videos. I really wanted to have an excuse to play through the 7 standards again and see things that I normally don't, so making these is really fun for me. So thanks for watching, guys who made it this far. Like, subscribe, yada yada. You know, I don't really care about making a name for myself. I just come here to talk about things I find interesting.